Behave.
Oh,
Now I
God.
gotta behave, Jesus. You're about an hour too late.
Okay. We'll call the meeting of the Bureau of Public
Hey,
Works,
I'm done.
regular
I'm
meeting,
done.
Wednesday,
I'm done
November
I'm done putting up
19,
with it. I'm not putting up
5,
anymore.
5:30 or so.
I'm not putting up anymore. It's not the point. It's not the point. We've putting up, my staff's putting up with bullshit for 4 years now. 4 years. We're all done. Fighting back. It ain't gonna be fun.
Do
Okay.
we have public comments? If there are any public comments, I don't know how many we have on the telephone. Any folks on the telephone at this point? Okay. Item number 3. Do we have the independent consumer advocate?
Hi, this is Liz. I'm here. I don't have any comments. Thank you.
Well, Liz.
You said no comment?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. And I did, by the way, just to you personally, I did hear your comments the other night on the public hearing for finance. And so I thank you for that. Item number 4, we need a motion for the meeting minutes of October.
Move adoption.
Second.
7.
Very good.
7, I abstain.
That's fine. Motion?
Yes.
Somebody? Second?
Second.
Yes, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you. Any opposition and 1 abstention. Thank you.
2 abstentions. Mr. Chairman?
2, excuse me, 2 abstentions. All right, thank you. Next item. Consideration and potential action. This is revisions to the sewer user charge. So you have somebody, who's going to talk tonight?
Kelly Shane. our
Kelly.
CAO.
Good evening, Commissioners. Kelly Shane, Chief Administrative Officer. As I did with the Water Bureau and shared just a brief description of the changes to the water rates, here tonight, I just wanted to go over changes to the proposed sewer rates for 2026. There aren't that many of them, which is nice. We've kept many of the rates the same. But I will go through the rates that we have changed. Obviously, I know we've talked about it before, but the budget that was presented to the Finance Committee and forwarded to the board for approval, these rates are incorporated in those revenue projections. And these rates were presented at the public hearing. I believe it was on the 12th, correct? Am I right on that? Yes. Yeah, November 12th. And there were no public comments other than from the consumer advocate, which were, again, great comments. So starting on this presentation, the material in front of you, we have no change to the sewer rate per CCF of, it remains unchanged at $5.90. This is the sewer user charge rate. However, the first change in rate is for the sewer customer service charge. It is currently $9 a month, and it is going to $12.50 a month. That rate of $9 we've had for the last 4 years. Prior to that, we had $7 for 2 years, from 20 to 21, and $6 in 2019. So we really haven't changed that rate in 4 years. And that is the one rate that does affect our customers on a monthly basis. It's $3.50.
Sorry to interrupt, Kelly. Commissioner Taylor, we are kind of close to a quorum. Is it possible you could stay so we can approve the rates in case somebody drops off online?
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay, sorry, Kelly.
Should I continue? So with that, if there are no questions on that, I'll move to the special sewer service charge, because all other rates on this sheet remain the same.
Yes, thank you.
On page 5-2, the special sewer service charge, which is the clean water project charge, is going up 30 cents from $4.57 in 2025, the current rate, to $4.87 per CCF in 2026. That's the proposed rate. And I do want to mention that that is the rate that was presented in our integrated plan model, and we are following that. So this is part of our affordability presentation to DEEP. I don't know, Scott, if you want to.
New employee, just don't forget to introduce him.
I will do that. If you'd like me to stop now, or I can
Nope,
do
it's
that.
up to you, whatever you want.
I will do that. Well, why don't I stop now and do that? We actually had 2 openings in our budget group right during budget season, and we were able to fill those 2. We're very happy to have Hayder, and last name? Nawaz. Hayder actually has come to us from New Britain. Don't know how. Yes, but he might have had some, knew someone somewhere. But we're so happy to have Hayder join our budget, as a budget analyst, our team. Charisse is very happy to have him, as well as Jonathan. And I think our other new Burton Freeman had come to the Water Bureau meeting on Monday, his first day. So Hayder picked a winner tonight to come to the first meeting. So I'm sure he'll remember it always. But we're happy to have him, and our budget team now is fully staffed. So for next budget season, it'll be a great relief to have a fully staffed team to manage the budget presented today. So it is important to mention that Charisse, who I know is on the line, and Kim Cummings, her other budget analyst, as well as Jonathan and the supporting teams across finance, spent so much time and being short-staffed. And JP Avenoso, too, who was promoted during the budget season into our accounting group, spent an amazing amount of time on this budget, and they should be just commended, and we will do that at the board meeting for all their hard work on this budget, because it was, as is every year, it's a lot of work to put together. And they work collaboratively with all the different departments on fine-tuning those forecasts and looking at them as compared to actual expenses every year to come up with these, not only the budget, but they also have to look at and calculate the cost of service that brings you these rates that we're presenting to tonight, which formulates our revenue projections, which is how we've come up with these rates that we're sharing with you tonight. Again, not many rate changes on the sewer side of the house, because ad valorem is remaining the same. Again, the total value of ad valorem, it does change for each of the member towns slightly, and that's based on that 3-year average calculation for each town based on their grand list. And there's a calculation to that, and I can, we can go through that calculation. But just as a simplicity, there's minor changes, and we did also present that at the Board of Finance meeting with the payments for each member town, and they are aware of them, so we're good there. The next group of changes on 5-3, you'll see them in red highlight. You'll see the current the current changes, which are our 2025 rates. These are all fees that we charge for sewer meters. The cost of installing a new or repairing by replacing a new a damaged meter. All those red changes, the proposed rates for 2026, are identical to the meters, because the water meters as well, these were the same changes at the costs of these sized meters. And those changes are based on the increase in cost of the actual material, the actual equipment, the meters themselves, as well as the cost of install and repair. So there's a calculation we do, and we meet and sit down with utility services and operations to come up with the number of hours it takes and all that kind, the crews and whatnot, to come up with these increases in costs for these. You'll see that hydrant meter assembly was crossed out. It was mistakenly put on the sewer meter charges. On the sewer miscellaneous charges here under meters, but we don't charge hydrant meter assemblies on the sewer side. That was just a mistake that was put on the rate sheet last year on both sides, and we're taking it off here. And another correction, the meter pit, 1.5 inch and 2 inch with a bypass, that was mistakenly not put on this rate sheet for sewer, but it does apply to sewer as well as water. You'll note that it is on the water rate sheet, but somehow we mistakenly put that rate only on the water side and not on the sewer side. So we're correcting that this year. Same meter, just water side and sewer side. So that rate is the same from last year. We just failed to put it on the rate sheet on the sewer side. Other than that, the radio transmitter unit, again, that's just an increase in the cost of our radio transmitter that brings us our meter reads off of our meters in the homes. Lastly, on page 5-4, the equivalent inflow removal rate. This is a rate that's brand new. This is charged primarily to developers, and it's, if you'll recall, back on September 8th, this committee approved Sewer Ordinance S21C, which is a new ordinance established. It's established per the Sewer Ordinance S21C. And it's a calculation of the average volume per day of inflow from a typical single-family property that we're taking out of the system. So a developer, in order to develop a new development, has to pay for the inflow. I don't know, Chris, I get confused because I'm not an engineer, but it's a fixed price that they pay for the inflow in order for the development to go forward. So that we take that amount out so that a new development can go in, and it's to promote development in the area. So they provide us with these fees. It's kind of like an outlet charge, if you will, but it supports us to provide additional project work to be able to take that amount of the inflow out of our system somewhere else. Did I do that right? Yeah. Excellent.
Okay,
So I think for this item, that is it. Everything else remains the same.
very good. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, if I might,
Oh, by all means.
this is John Myrtle. So we need somebody to make a motion to approve, but before the vote, we do need an amendment. At the top of page 5-3, it's the first resolved paragraph. It starts on bottom of 5-2 and carries over into 5-3. The sewer customer service charge in this paragraph, it's listed at $9. It's supposed to be $12.50. Earlier up in the top of the document in the report on page 1, in the summary, it correctly states that the sewer customer service charge would be increasing from $9 to $12.50. So that was out there, that was part of the public hearing. Unfortunately, in the resolution itself, it has the incorrect dollar amount. So we do need somebody to make a motion to first approve it, and then a motion to amend that $9 charge to $12.50 per month.
Amend it first and then approve?
Yeah, you have to adopt it and then amend it. I move it because it's on the agenda. I move adoption.
Second.
Thank you. Second, yes.
Why don't you move amendment?
And
Commissioner Torres just moved to amend, and
Oh,
Commissioner
second. I'll second
Gentile
yours.
second also. Okay, thank you. So we're good to
So
go.
all those in favor of the amendment?
Okay. Everyone in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, unanimous. Now, let me just clarify, we do have a quorum at this
Yes.
point.
Yes,
Okay. And I don't know how many are on the phone, but,
we've got a couple.
So it's
Commissioner
as amended.
Lester,
It's
Salemi, and
as
Wolf.
amended now.
okay, very good.
Well, you gotta move, don't you have to vote on the motion?
As amended.
As amended.
Yes.
Okay. Who has that? The motion and the second?
No, it's
It's
already
already
we did.
there.
seconded.
Oh, very good,
All we have to do is vote on what we just did.
very good. On the amended motion.
Right.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Thank you. Any opposition? Hearing none, unanimous. Brings us to number 6, I believe.
Yes.
Number 6, we need action on the septage reimbursement rate.
Move adoption.
Second,
Second.
thank you. Is there some narrative?
I was going to, but if you're going to move it, we're fine.
Thank
No,
you,
we
Kelly.
just- We just moved it.
I don't mean to steal your,
No, we don't.
I just know our customers will be happy. Those that this is applicable to will be very happy with this change.
exactly. Very good, thank you. Having been one of those, yes, makes you happy. So, item number 6, the motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, unanimous. Number 7, a discussion. There's nothing like a discussion.
Yeah.
So
If
fire
I may-
away.
Yes, if I may, Mr. Chair. So in our last meeting at BPW, we talked about the concept of stormwater, and we've had this conversation regarding a stormwater authority and why it's so important. And we mirrored that with, or melded that with the presentation from the MS4 issue. And so it's all kind of one issue, but it's all related to stormwater. And our biggest problem here at the MDC is stormwater. And if we were really smart in 1980, we would have done something completely different and addressed stormwater, and we'd be in a different situation right now. But we weren't, and no one was. So, but we are smarter now. We spent $2 billion, and the logic is, what do you do with that $2 billion spent? Hopefully become smarter. And so what we're trying to say, as we've said, this, you'll see a lot of these slides are the same. But what we're trying to say in this presentation is the stormwater is not going away, and it's just getting worse and worse. And we have one town, Hartford is a combined sewer town. We're trying to separate the system. We're trying to remove the stormwater by separating. But we have the same problem in the other 7 towns because the stormwater's already separated, but because there is no storm system in most cases, the stormwater is coming in through a different way, which is through basements and through infiltration. So what we're going to try and explain to the water BPW is, we talked about a cost-benefit analysis. What's the benefit of supporting our towns on stormwater projects, and what's the benefit to us, the MDC? And so Jay Waterbury is going to do a little presentation. And like I said, the majority of these slides came and were part of the Stormwater Authority slides.
Thank you. Jason Waterbury, Assistant Manager of Engineering. Let's hope that there we go, it actually works. This slide shows a typical setup or schematic in the separated areas of our system, so the areas outside of Hartford. Basically, you've got an existing sewer, storm drain. The slides I've shown this a couple times, it's they're cracked or whatnot. What we found, and the reason I wanted to start off with this, is what we found is as we line sewers and line laterals, the groundwater, which had a place to go previously, being our sewer, which is kind of acting like a French drain, had nowhere to go anymore. So what happens is the groundwater table comes back up, probably to where it was originally before the sewers went in. And you'll see that demonstrated on this slide. And we've seen actually some real-world examples of this. Personally, I saw it on Treat Road in Weathersfield, and I also saw it off of 4 Mill Road area in West Hartford. And basically what happens then is not only is that groundwater coming up and it impacts residents, those residents will complain about, oh, my sump pump never ran before, now it's running all the time. Or we'll see, we line the sewers and we expect to get a certain amount of water out of the system, and we may not get as much out as we anticipated because that water table now has risen up, and it's just coming right back in to the system via foundation drain, which is then hard piped into our system if it's not separated or disconnected. So what we're trying to do is basically break that cycle and eliminate that kind of almost like a water table loophole that exists right now. So just to kind of paint the picture in the Hartford system, this slide and the next slide does break down what we do know about what infiltration and inflow. And pardon me if you don't, if anyone needs to know which one is which. Infiltration is the groundwater coming into the pipes through leaks and cracks, and inflow is water coming into our system through a hard pipe connection like a sump pump or foundation drain. Basically, in the Hartford system, outside of Hartford, of course, almost 3/4 of the wet weather flow is coming from private sources, and that's either the lateral or that's a hard pipe connection. And then when we move into the other two major systems that we have, a lot of this wet weather issue on, Pequannock is a little bit newer, so it's not quite as exaggerated, where it's 60% is the private. And then Rocky Hill is a little bit more. It's obviously an older system, especially like an old Weathersfield area, where it's 62% private. This slide I've shown a couple times before, but I think one of the things that it points out is when we look at how much water we're selling 30 to 35 MGD a day of water on an average day. But on a wet weather day, we're going to see a significant higher volume coming to our wastewater plants, and that's just another symptom, or it's like the canary in the coal mine, with how much wet weather actually is being generated outside of Hartford. Outside of Hartford alone, within that Hartford sewer shed, so it's the yellow areas on that map. The wet weather flow compared to the dry weather flow is a factor of 7 that it goes up on average. So it's just and that's one thing that we've, obviously we've got the regulatory pieces of this with the overflows and whatnot, but there's also a cost impact to that. We have to obviously pump it if it's going through a pump station, or we have to treat it when it gets to a wastewater plant. And I'll talk about that more in a couple more slides, but we are paying extra money just to transport and treat, stormwater and groundwater through our system. And that's despite the fact that this is a separated system. And if it was a separated system, you wouldn't see anywhere near these. If it was truly separated, you wouldn't see those numbers. So when I say truly separated, this is what I mean. This is kind of what we want to get to, where nothing but stormwater goes into the stormwater system and nothing but sewer goes into the sewer system, and everything's perfect and works out great and dandy. If that was the case, we would have, an average daily flow go into the treatment plant that almost mirrors what is actually being sold for drinking water. This is what we're trying to get to. This is the type of work that we've been doing with some of our sewer backup prevention program work and sewer house connection work, and some of the separation work that we've done, either whether it be in pilot study areas outside of Hartford or in North Hartford type situation, where your existing condition is one pipe leaving the house, you've got a foundation drain pumping with a sump pump pumping into it, you've got obviously your roof leaders going into it, plus the sanitary flow like the bathrooms and whatnot. That's your pre. Your post being the picture on the right, which shows, okay, now I've got a separate pipe that is my drain lateral, and that's what we're really kind of trying to talk to tonight. And your roof leader is disconnected. It can either flow into the drain lateral or it can flow across the ground in most cases. And you've got your foundation drains and sump pumps connected to that. That is what we're trying to get to, that if every house was like this and we lined our sewers, then you're going to have a system that doesn't have any overflows, and you're not going to have a system where you're paying so much to transport and treat wet weather flows. Just another way of looking at our existing. There's a note on this slide that each of our towns, or at least the majority of our towns, have ordinances that prohibit non-sanitary flow going into the sewer system. So obviously that's not completely 100% reinforced right now. If it was, obviously you have some that are probably grandfathered in, but there's still newer homes that we find that have these types of connections that have slipped through the cracks, over the years. And this is...
And Jay, I'm sorry, and MDC has an ordinance that says you can't do this, right?
Yes, we do. And that's actually the very last slide is our sewer ordinance. And this is another picture of what we're trying to get to, where you've got a private storm lateral going to a storm drain. That's going to carry on its way and discharge to whatever the water body is on downstream of there. Now, before I get into some other impacts here, this is the beginning of the cost conversation. So we obviously have done a lot of work over the last got to do math in my head, 17 years here, or 19 years as part of the Clean Water Project. It's all focused on wet weather flows. That's what causes the overflows. And just these projects alone, the expansion of the Hartford treatment plant from 90 MGD to 200 MGD, the expansion of the Rock Hill plant up to 27 MGD, the work of the tunnel, and then some projects that were just simply building bigger pipes. That's $1.3 billion right there. And that's $1.3 billion that wouldn't have had to be spent if we had this, ideal dry situation. But again, the other part of it is when you've increased the plant sizes or conveyance or pump stations, that's bigger assets that in the future you've got to then repair and replace. So you're not just fixing it once. 25 years from now, instead of replacing a 20 million gallon a day plant at Rocky Hill, you're replacing a 25 million gallon a day plant at Rocky Hill. So it just leads to future costs that are bigger than they would have been.
Jay, before you leave this slide, this is really important, if I may, Mr. Chair. If we were really smart in 1980, and no one was, right? So we've learned a lot, meaning the industry, the community, EPA, DEEP, everybody realizes stormwater is the problem. So we're smart now. But in 1980, we weren't. So we're spending $1.3 billion to make the plant system bigger to handle stormwater that the towns won't take out, right? But we're all paying for it. The 1.3 is being paid for by every customer at the MDC as a member town. So that 1.3 billion is being spent. Now, how sad would it be if we know this today and 25 years from now, hopefully I'm around, I can say, I told you so. We're going to wind up spending as much, if not more, years from now because the system's going to get older and the infiltration is going to get worse. And as Jay said, the more and more work we do, we're actually making the system better structurally. But because we're making it better structurally, it's doing its job. And then especially the non-Hartford towns, their water table's going up, so they have to pump more water in. So we're not actually achieving anything. We're actually circumventing the money that we're spending. But can you imagine if we took $1.3 billion and we divided it up amongst 8 towns and spent it on stormwater in 1980? We wouldn't have this problem. And what we're trying to tell you is, if you do nothing, you're going to continue to spend this money. Jay mentioned the wet weather system. The wet weather system is, as Jay said, 35 MGD, 40 MGD. That's what we sell every day. The wet weather system was designed to handle 200. So we're permitted and allowed to handle wet weather 200. It doesn't go through a full secondary treatment system like the normal flow, but it goes through a very specific wet weather system that we built just for the wet weather. And can you imagine if DEEP says you can't do that anymore? It's got to go through the secondary side too. So that means that's another $1 billion. Now it's not there yet, but that's coming. And what we're trying to express is, if you don't do something about stormwater, you're going to continue to spend good money after bad on thinking you're solving the problem, but you're actually not, because you're encouraging bad behavior. We put in a sump pump and it pumps to the backyard of somebody in West Hartford, Newington, Weathersfield. The water table in Newington is 9 feet above our sewer pipe. 9. So imagine if you have a crack in the pipe, what happens? The water goes in the pipe. What happens if you line the pipe? The water goes up higher. And then the homeowner says, my backyard is even more wetter than it was, so I'm going to pump more water into the MDC system. And as soon as we do our work, Dave Ruddy and his group, they go out there in utility services, they do all that work in the home, and they say, thank you very much. And then they call their plumber and say, can you undo what MDC just did? And that happens. It happens every day. And we don't go back and check to make sure that they didn't undo what we did. The towns don't inspect with their town building inspection teams to make sure they didn't undo what we did. But this is a waste of money.
Yeah.
You're wasting money. And so, sorry, Jay.
That's okay. No, but actually, to the point of future regulations or whatever, our consent order is complete elimination for the CSOs going to the Cove, and complete elimination for the CSOs going to the open channel in the North Branch. For the remaining CSOs, it's 1 year level control. I would probably bet my mortgage that at some point in time in the lifetime of the MDC, that's not going to be 1 year level of control. It's probably going to be complete elimination. And the only way to the starting point to do that is getting out that extra wet weather flow. So just, the pictures on here, you got the treatment plant upgrade, you got the picture, that's in the tunnel, the top right, that's an excavator in the tunnel. And then the bottom right is actually the Gulf Brook trunk sewer down in Weathersfield. So reinforcing the concept of, it's not just an MDC problem. As we line sewers, the water comes up, which we've talked about. Well, you've already got a stormwater system in some areas that just can't handle what's already there, besides the point of what happens after we fix our system. So you've got, and I don't think that's news, this slide was taken from that other presentation that Scott referenced. I mean, that's Nahum Drive right there, but obviously that's in Hartford, that's a combined system, but upstream of that, you've got water coming in that's coming from Bloomfield or West Hartford. So it's not just a Hartford problem, it's not just a West Hartford problem, it's water doesn't care about boundaries, it's an all of us problem. And then the same thing, on here, this is just more flooding that's happened in other towns. I think it's Great River Park on the right-hand side, and the left, I think, was West Hartford, if I remember correctly. But, Trout Brook, the town of West Hartford is doing a stormwater study / improvement program. It's their first piece is what they call the feed area, which is like Farmington, Elizabeth Park, Asylum, and Trout Brook. And then they're also looking at a piece down in the southeastern corner of the town. But as they put more stormwater into Trout Brook eventually becomes the Park River in Hartford. So it's not just a one town program problem or an NDC problem. So now going into the cost pieces of this, they're starting off. We did a pilot study probably about 12 years ago. Just looking at what we were able to rehab and what the benefits were. And there were two areas that we wanted to do work in because we saw a lot of wet weather flows, and we weren't allowed to because the existing drainage system couldn't handle us taking in some pumps and foundation drains out. It was the Folly Brook area in Weathersfield, and then an area kind of near, I think it's Foxcroft in West Hartford, which is now actually part of the FEED study, ironically. But we're treating, we did a part of the long-term control plan. We figured out that it was, $650 for every million gallons that it goes of wet weather flow. Now you escalate that up, it's $854 per million gallons. When you look at how much wet weather flow actually gets to our plants, we're spending about $12 million this year in treating wet weather flow.
Jay, can I ask a question?
Yes, you can.
Is that $12 million paid for by Avalorum, John? Yes. And, right, it's operational
I was wondering
money.
which John you were talking to.
I'm sorry, Jonathan, that $12 million is paid for by Avalorum. It's cash money. The towns pay that. How much money could you borrow in debt service with $12 million a year?
How much?
Yeah.
The debt service, if we did it, let me think.
Sorry, Jonathan, could you get to a mic?
Oh,
You didn't know you'd be quizzed, did you?
I didn't know I would get quizzed. It's all good. How much money can you say that again?
How much money could you borrow if your mortgage payment was $12 million a year?
How much could you borrow if it was 12 million?
It's about $2 million for every 40 million,
2
right?
million every floor.
Every
yeah.
40. That's the number. Right? So it's real simple, right? So you could borrow and build a lot of stuff if that 12 million bucks was debt service. But right now you're paying cash money through Avalorum. And it's not getting better, it's getting worse. It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Sorry, Jonathan.
Nope, you're good.
And, further, sorry, Scott.
That's okay. Sorry, Jonathan, put you on the spot.
So kind of along those lines, if you took the $12 million just from 2025, now we already have the sewer backup prevention program, so that covers the costs inside the house. But like Scott said, that doesn't permanently guarantee that when we do a disconnection, it's going to remain that way forever. I'm sure there's homeowners that have reconnected just because they don't want a wet lawn. But if we were to partner with a town who's doing a stormwater project, or if there already is a storm drain there, and we want to look at just doing that pipe doing that lateral from the house to the pipe in the road, whether it's new or the property line if it's going in, that would be about 600 homes that we'd be able to do, and that's just this year. So obviously you multiply that out over a couple of years, and you're going to add up that number will go up every single year. So there's a lot of work that could be done rather than paying the 12 to, as it escalates, $13-15 million every year in extra TNT costs. And we're still progressing along with lining our sewers. So the groundwater table will continue to rise in certain areas as we're doing that. And obviously we're doing that for a structural benefit of our pipes, not just an I&I reduction. But if you look back at the long-term control plan update, we've got about, we've done, I think it was 160 miles, give or take, since the Clean Water Project, started off the top of my head. And we've got about another 268 to go. The total cost of that was $385 million. Now that's money we are spending. That's obviously not coming out of Avalorum, but we are still moving along this ride of getting this groundwater out, and it's not going to make the situation with the groundwater table any better.
And if I may, I'm sorry, Jay, I just want to emphasize this. What we're saying in these slides up to now is you got two options. You do nothing, and then the system just gets, even though we're fixing it, it's just the problem is getting worse because you're encouraging bad behavior, right? You're fixing our pipes, but people are now forcing them to pump more water into our system, which makes that $12 million go up. So you do nothing, and you're just going to spend a lot more money. Or you encourage the towns. You've got two options. You can fine the towns. We have an ordinance that says you can't do that. I don't think we've had this. I've been here 20 years. We've had this conversation. It hasn't happened yet, and it probably won't. Or you can encourage towns to build storm infrastructure. How do you do that? I don't know. But what my logic is, it's in our best interest for our towns to encourage them to build storm systems. And as I mentioned in the last meeting, West Hartford did a study. They hired CDM. They've identified $1 billion worth of work, storm work, that they need to do. Good for them. They've identified $300 million worth of work in 1/3 of their town. And they're starting to do small projects, not big projects, but $5, $10, $15 million projects. And so this whole conversation is about, do we encourage good behavior by supporting our 8 or our 7 other towns with stormwater projects, or do we just force them to do it? And the answer is, I don't care which the answer is, but you got to do something, because the money that we're spending is really, you're flushing it down the toilet. The only benefit we're getting is the pipe is now, the integrity of the pipe's good. It's not going to collapse, but you're actually getting more inflow from the basements than you were. Sorry, Jay.
That's okay. So, if we were to do an agreement with a town, this is hypothetically what it would look like. You'd have on the left, you have what our responsibilities would be, which would be, we would handle any of the work inside the house. We would handle, the storm lateral on the private property side, similar fashion what we do on the sewer side with our own forces. And then on the right-hand side, you'd have the responsibility of the town would be getting that lateral to the property line, building the main line, storm drain in the road, making sure it's big enough. The town would remain the MS4 permittee. They would do that, all that kind of stuff with respect to the mainline pipe, the storm drain. So this is the hypothetical of what.
Yes. Can I just ask a question? On the left side, do town pay for that, or we pay, MDC pay for that?
Town.
So execution, administration, construction phase, the town would take care of that.
Right.
Again, the left side.
And this is just an option.
Yeah, this is an option.
We can do 1,000 things. The point is, we can do anything. The point is, we need to do something, right?
I'm just trying to understand your presentation.
Yes.
Of what you're looking to do, and I understand
The reason why we propose to do the work inside, we already do that. So right now, in our towns, all 8 towns, we do the sump pump, backwater valve. Everybody gets that for free. So that's a wash, right? The only thing is we're pumping that water to the grass. The only option here would be the town builds the storm system in the street, brings it to the curb, and then because we have the experience of doing this, all of this work's done by our staff at Utility Services. All of the work is done by MDC. So we're proposing that this would all be done in every town, and encourage good behavior, encourage towns to build storm systems. And if you build a storm systems, the MDC will do X, whatever X is, whether it's,
But the town would write you, we haven't thought that through, but the town should write you a check then to do that work on the town.
no, the town's gonna build it. The town's building the storm system in the street. We're not touching it. We're doing the internal basement work that we already do for free. And then, and instead of dumping it to the grass, we would bring it to the curb. And that would be the only thing we're proposing, and we could propose a lot of things, right? But that's a simple logic, because we already do that. We're doing that right now in every town with the sewer side. We do it with the storm and sewer in Hartford, so we're very educated on that.
The real issue, what we need to do, and I kind of agree with what you're saying, we need to figure out how to tell each town to get off their ass and fix what it
Yes.
is. Will help you.
Correct.
I'm not sure how you do that, but I agree
Right.
with you do. That's
Right.
what you need to do.
But you gotta do
And the
something.
towns have to pay for it, which
Yes.
is right.
Right. And it's not, our towns are not gonna spend $100 million a year.
No, no.
And we're not asking that,
But
right?
the towns need to make their
But
own
they need to,
plans.
they need to do something, right? That would help.
So the question is, we need to come up with a way to tell the towns, this is,
Right.
what you know, actually the towns, I'm sure all know the issues.
Yeah, they do.
But
Oh,
you
they
gotta
do.
it.
Most likely, if we have an area that's wet and kind of is our problem child, that's probably the town's problem child too. There's going to be some overlap. So that's the conversation is working together with the towns to say, okay, this is the area that gives everyone the best bang for your buck.
Right.
And then just as a refresher, this is our sewer ordinance. Obviously the bold text is the highlight, where surface water, subsoil drainage, which is your foundation drains or stormwater, is not allowed in our sewer system. And yet you go back to that slide that had, the colors on it with the collection system, and obviously it is getting in. So, and it's not all coming in through the mainline pipe.
Mr. Chairman? This
Yes,
is Commissioner Bush on the phone.
yes. Go right ahead.
So thank you. Appreciate it. Through you, Mr. Chairman. So this has been the issue that really started my entire political career, and the whole idea of trying to separate the storm sewer from the stormwater from sewer system in West Hartford. And I've been an integral part of the conversations over the last 6 years. There's no way that the towns are going to be able to pay for this infrastructure. So, I mean, if the town of West Hartford is looking at a $300 million to $1 billion cost, that's just never going to happen. So the idea that we're trying to push this cost to the towns and trying to encourage the towns to do it is just, it's never going to happen. So there has to be a different way than that. I mean, I don't know if it's possible for the MDC to help to fund that cost. We could, maybe individual towns could then maybe add that to ad valorem in some way to compensate, but there's no way that town of West Hartford's going to come up with $1 billion to do that.
Understood. Understood. Thank you.
If I may.
Yes, please.
I said this, Scott Jellison, I said this at our Stormwater Authority conversation. Commissioner Bush, and I agree with you 100%, and that's why we have this conversation. But my fear is that you may get your own consent order. And these 7 towns that are contributing to this wet weather, that it's, they're supposed to be, they are permitted by EPA, not DEEP. You are not allowed to bring stormwater to the sewer system. So that's where MS4 comes in. It's all about stormwater. There will be a day where our 7 towns have some kind of consent order on their own as it relates to stormwater. And when that happens, the town, whoever that is, will be in the same predicament that the MDC is in right now. So that is on the radar. I've said this 1,000 times with our meetings with EPA. They understand this. They realize the problem. It will become a problem for the individual towns at some point in life. I don't know if it's 5 years from now or 10 years from now or 20 years from now, but MS4 was the start. As I've said, MS4, the start of managing water quality, stormwater. It is the start of that conversation.
Scott, don't you think?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Commissioner DeMello.
through you to Scott. Obviously, a consent order is where it's gonna ultimately end up. It's just a question of when.
Correct. It will happen.
I mean, the big problem is the ability for the towns to pay that, other towns to pay for that kind of contribution. It's
Right.
gonna have to be state funded or some kind of a shared program with the state.
Yeah, I understand the magnitude of the problem, and we're not suggesting we're gonna solve the problem, but what I'm trying to portray in this presentation and in the previous presentations is we're spending good money after bad, and we should be allocating some money, whatever that is, to start attacking the problem. And as we talked about North Hartford, what did we do in North Hartford? We were gonna spend $47 million over 10 years, and with everything that has happened, the board, EPA, DEEP agreed to spend 170. What was the difference between the two plans? Going into the house, removing the stormwater at the source, and bringing it to a separate storm system. That's what they agreed to, and we finally have DEEP and EPA realizing it's. Who's the Democrat who says is the economy stupid? No, it was
Oh, Carver.
Carvel, right?
James Carver.
Yeah, it's the stormwater, stupid. The stormwater is the problem, and we're trying to we're spending all this money to get stormwater out, and the way in which it infiltrates in our pipes, the old pipes, as Jay said, it comes through the cracks. But as soon as we fix the cracks, then it also is coming through we call inflow, pumped inflow or gravity inflow from the house, and it's just raising the elevation of the water, more water comes in. So we have proof that the inflow is going up and the infiltration is going down. But the net result is we're still spending $12 million. So does it make sense for us to encourage at some level, whatever it is, to encourage towns at whatever level they want to build storm systems? I don't know.
I don't know if there's
I think it's a cost.
There's no resolution, no.
Further comments, questions?
questions.
Yes, Commissioner Curry.
For Scott, is it possible that, based on what we've heard tonight, towns that have already separated their water sewer we're violating our ordinances for not doing anything in those towns?
I would tell you.
It's a yes or no question.
I'm sorry.
Now you got them stumped. Now you got them stumped. Possible. That was my question.
I apologize, and I know I have to say this. A lot of our towns have storm pipes in the streets, but it only is large enough to handle the road. So it doesn't connect to the house. So the answer is yes and no.
Okay,
Fair enough.
I know we get there somehow.
So, following up on that, have we suggested to these towns that they need to do a study, identification of problems? There was one slide up there that showed a deterioration of something. Do they know? Do they even have the capability to identify those type of problems?
So the stormwater presentation that I provided a couple of times over the last 5 years, we have presented that to the towns. We actually invited all the towns here to that presentation. They are fully aware of it. The problem with most of our towns is they don't have the financial wherewithal or the engineering expertise to do it, and that's why we proposed maybe MDC should be a stormwater authority. And we're not going to take all the stormwater out, but maybe we should be the entity that prioritizes, as Jay said, just like the Clean Water Project. We're not fixing every pipe in the streets. We're just trying to fix the ones that are causing us the most pain.
Let's just add those MDC Stormwater Authority LLC.
Right.
Further. Yeah,
This
Commissioner Drake,
this
sorry.
presentation, in my mind, is like probably the most important thing the MDC should be doing right now. And I know what's going on in my town. Nobody's talking about that. No, I'm just saying, nobody's talking about that.
Right.
And their engineering department is very good. They got people who could deal with this. But going back to what Commissioner Curry said, I think what we need to do is really figure out how we're gonna tell the towns and not just, hey, have a little meeting and this, you got a problem, everybody goes home, has lunch. But, I mean, I think this is the most important thing that's going on. This fixes, well, like I said, if you did this in the 80s, you probably wouldn't have a hole in the ground.
Right.
But, so how do we go to the next step, this board, to say, we need to put a plan in place to go to each town and maybe do something?
What we,
I
if
know
I
you
may.
had some meetings,
No,
but the big
so-
thing to have a lunch and everybody goes home.
Yeah, we've had this conversation with all of our towns, right? And we have been, I've said this before, West Hartford, I give them lots of credit. They are doing this not because they like it,
Yeah,
because they're
right.
forced to do it.
And they should do it.
But it's not, we're not forcing them, they're forcing because of their development and
No, I
everything.
understand, but they should be doing it. It's
But
their town.
because they're doing it,
Yeah.
and for whatever reason they're doing it, is good for the MDC. What we're proposing is exactly what that last slide showed is, does the MDC board want to encourage towns, the other 7 towns, to do stuff like this? And then we provide some benefit to them, whether it's the lateral or half of the lateral or something that provides the incentive for a town like West Hartford, Weathersfield,
I'm with you,
Newington.
so how do we write that down, exactly what we want to present to the town next?
Uh,
So
I have
we're gonna go to
we'll write
town
a-
of Weathersfield.
we'll
say,
create a
"We're gonna
memo,
do this,
we'll create an
you gotta
MOU.
do this, and we're leaving you
We'll
alone."
create an MOU. The problem is, the problem for the board is, we need to be able to fund it, right? We need all 8 towns to agree, because if we just pick a number, let's say the MDC says, the board approved giving free sewer laterals to everybody. Now, granted, we're not gonna give free sewer laterals to everybody all at once, it's gonna be over a long period of time, right? So we've got a process in place, we're doing that in North Hartford with lining, laterals, all that good stuff. If the board so chose to say, if a town does a storm project or has a storm pipe in the street that's capable of handling the homes in the area, the MDC would somehow help the town for that lateral. Whether it's pay for the whole lateral or a portion of it,
But why should we help the town? Town should just take it. It's their
because we
problem.
just talked about $12 million a year, it just keeps growing. The $12 million a year that you're paying for, and that's cash money, you're paying it in ad valorem to treat the wet weather that's coming from those homes.
No, but again, maybe you got, with the cost, you gotta force the towns to do something. Again, I
Yeah,
don't know.
the answer is,
why.
you could say to all the towns, you
Not
you need to remove the
In the
stormwater.
80s and 90s,
Yeah.
we used to have gutter pleas for a while. It was like a couple
Yes.
years. Go back, and it was a big deal. They used to go
Southwind-
around and they go knock on your door, get that unconnected. Now nobody does.
Southington did that, and it was a disaster. They said, we're gonna charge everybody $100,
Never did.
and they did, everybody said, no problem, here's your $100.
Yeah.
But it's not paying for the $12 million.
No, I understand, but
You know.
$12 million is chump change, to be honest with you, with everything we do.
But something,
Could
you
someone
could
come up-
find,
Can someone come up with a plan, what we need, again, after this meeting, everybody goes home and forgets about it, but to me, this is huge, this is
Yeah.
like the biggest thing.
what we're proposing is that you provide some incentive, financial incentive, to the towns, and if it's a free storm lateral, and they build a storm pipe, or they already have a storm pipe in the street, there's a lot of places in our towns that have a storm pipe in the street.
Can you put maybe?
But it's not big enough.
Can you do one page or something?
Yes,
Maybe we
we
can
can.
do set to start this, because.
Absolutely, we already have
This
it.
is a huge deal, yeah, okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Bush again.
Yes, go ahead.
Scott, earlier you mentioned that for $12 million in fees, we could borrow an awful lot of money. So, I mean, is it even realistic to think about buying all the storm sewers, the storm sewer systems from the town, and then
Oh, no, they'd
increasing
have
ad
to pay
valorem
us.
over time? Or
No
saying,
one
Good idea.
No, they'd have to,
Whatever-
they'd have to
whatever the
pay
case
us,
may be.
Commissioner.
All
MDC
right, well,
becoming a
they-
stormwater authority would be its demise.
Right, yeah.
Okay. All right, because I'm trying to listen to the conversation and talk about what incentives you could give to a town that would encourage them to do the storm sewer system. And short of money, short of actually infusing them with money to do it, or helping them to get grants or state money to do it, I don't see the carrot for the town. I don't see why a town would choose to do it, other than the threat of the EPA coming down with a consent order at some point in the future.
Yeah, and if I may, that is a realistic scenario, and that will happen at some point. And as I've said before, MS4 is the start of that conversation with our towns. So we're just trying to get ahead of this, and we're trying to mitigate. You're still going to spend the $12 million a year every year. What we're trying to do is mitigate that 12 million to become 20 and 30 and 50. And then 20 years from now, someone's saying, hopefully, you know, it was 12 million, and Scott Jolson was here and said, if you did this, you would mitigate that, and now, but it's 50 now. That's what's happening. The number's just getting bigger because the problem's getting bigger. And so, and in my opinion, if you had the ability, if the board so chose to say, if you do this, Mr. Town, Mrs. Town, if you do that, and you put a storm pipe in the street or upgrade the storm pipe in the street, we already do the interior plumbing. We'll provide the lateral to the property line, and then the town does their project. And that's a less than a $10,000 issue. And we, as Jay said, if you can do 600, 1,000 homes a year, we would be doing this with MDC staff. All this work would be done with MDC staff from Utility Services. It's a win for us on the inflow and infiltration, and it's a win for the town. It's a win for everybody. It's every drop of water we get out of West Hartford is a win for Wethersfield, because you're not paying, $12 million, and vice versa. Everything that Wethersfield takes out of the system, or Newington takes out of the system, it's a win for all other towns in the operational expense.
Commissioner Payne.
Thank you. If they don't do anything, it's still going to cost them money, because they would have to pay for what's going to cost us. I think it would help the towns greatly if we could include, if it's possible, the prioritizing and the design, and take that away from them. Not take it away from them, but I think we're better qualified to handle that, and I think it would be beneficial to the towns if we handled it.
Excuse me.
Yep, Commissioner DeBella.
You mean as a regional?
Well, he's
Like
saying
we operate as a regional, take it on as a regional obligation.
he's saying that we want to help the towns, which helps us. If besides the laterals, if we could help the towns with the design and where to start, where to prioritize, what pipes are existing in the roads that we could already attach to, and which pipes have to be enlarged, so that the towns have a better idea. And it's off the backs of the town engineering departments. They have enough to handle, and I think that we're better qualified for it. I'm not sure if it would add a tremendous amount of expense to it, but I think it would be beneficial to incentivize the towns to cooperate with it.
Don't we also do that, Scott? Now we're talking West Hartford. We're assisting when they put on a sewer.
Yes, thank you. No, the reason why I'm having this conversation is because West Hartford is actually doing what we're talking about. And the concept is, does the board want to use West Hartford as the example of exactly what we're talking about? And the answer is yes or no. And so if we did it for West Hartford, we do it for all the towns.
Are you helping West Hartford right now on this? Is that what
West Hartford has identified, they have hired CDM to do a drainage study, do a stormwater study, and they've identified about $1 billion worth of work, $300 million in 1/3 of their town. So this is not going to happen over 100 years, right? But they're picking and choosing what they want to do. And this conversation has come up over the years. And as I mentioned at the last meeting, BPW, we were having this conversation with West Hartford before North Hartford. And when North Hartford happened and we said, okay, we're going to give everybody a free sewer lateral, we said, we can't afford more. So we dropped it. But the conversation would be, whatever we do for West Hartford, we would do for everybody.
Are you doing anything for West Hartford now, kind of?
No.
So nothing, so it's just a
It's
conversation?
a conversation.
So what would you do for them right now if they needed help? Like just,
Well, what we would
nothing,
do
right?
is the concept here is they build a storm pipe.
Right.
I mean, they're building, and I don't know which street it is, but they're building like an 84-inch storm pipe. In what street?
Is it Beldor?
Beldor?
It's along Trout Brook.
Yeah, it's a big storm project. And so the concept is exactly this. They're gonna build a storm system anyways, right? So the concept is they build a storm system. We have to do the internal work because that's what we do. We do that for everybody for free. And the logic is if they did that, we would bring a storm lateral to the curb line.
So that model right now is what we think we want to do, right? What they're doing.
That's what we think is the best scenario.
That model right now is what may come back to you
Yeah.
and to the board to act on,
But we haven't done anything.
but we haven't,
No,
we're not there
I understand.
yet.
No, I'm not questioning that, just, I guess just that what, if they asked you to do something, what that model would be, that makes sense. And maybe, I don't know what piece makes sense, but okay.
The goal is to encourage other towns to do the same thing as West Hartford's doing. That's the goal.
I'm just using that as an example,
Yeah.
maybe that's what.
Through you.
But, yes, Commissioner.
It's extremely important to get other municipalities to look at the future. The reality is that we know that it's difficult for municipalities to spend money unless they have to spend, they see they have to spend money. I agree with Commissioner Bush. It's not going to happen simply because, the wisdom, is there to do that. The incentive thing, makes a lot of sense. And I agree with Commissioner Payne that as you look at potentially providing an incentive for municipalities to begin to do this work, it should be a strategy that prioritizes those things which are most beneficial to the MDC for them to do. So when that planning takes place, it's just not willy-nilly. There's some sense to it, so that in conjunction with the MDC, they say, you know what, if you're planning on doing this, why don't we do this one first to get the most bang out of the money? So it's important for us to be part of that conversation, of that planning, because it has an impact on what happens down the road to us. So what they do and what working towards that solution needs to be in concert with what is happening at this end of the system. That's the first thing. And then the other piece, as an incentive, could be, the kinds of things that we do with the laterals and the sump pumps and that sort of thing. But rather than to do this wholesale, maybe we can look at providing an incentive program or project that is piloted just for some of the municipalities to get a sense of what this is all about and see if it works for them. Because the other alternative is either they're going to get a consent decree down the road, which they'll sit and wait, say, well, it hasn't happened, I'll to just get elected every 2 years in some place, I'm in 4, it's not affecting me, I'm not going to worry about it. The other thing is that the residents get flooded basements up to their necks, okay? And then they vote and they say, you got to do something about this. You got to fix this problem, and they're going to have to then do it. And that's going to be who knows when down the road. In the meantime, we're spending all of this money. So, right. So I think that it's taking the leadership role in this and trying to use some rationale, some incentives that are beneficial to both the towns and the MDC might be something we need to look at. We need to come up with, some programs, some dollar figures, and what can we do? What are we doing? And then get some towns to maybe pilot some of these things where they're most needed. And we can suggest that to these individuals. Why don't you start here? Let's see if we can do something, here. Maybe then look at also other ways to try to help them budget for these kinds of things, whether it's state dollars or federal dollars or whatever, or combination of things that we can do. But I think that's, that's the approach we have to have here. Otherwise, it's not gonna get done.
If I may just to add to
Thank you,
that.
Commissioner.
If I just add to that.
Yep, please.
Commissioner, I appreciate that, and I would tell you, we've already done the pilots. So we've already done pilots. We've done in West Hartford, Weathersfield, and Newington. Windsor, Newington. We've already done the pilots. So we've already have the documentation that says this works, right? We've proven it works. We also know exactly where the areas are of the worst condition, because as part of the consent decree, EPA, non-Hartford towns, we were required to do SSES studies, sanitary sewer assessment studies. We had to assess where's the worst of the worst, because we had to remove 10%, 15% in West Weathersfield of I&I. So those studies, very detailed studies, going into communities, putting smoke bombs in catch basins, watching the smoke come out of gutters and all that stuff. We already did that. So we have the information. It's a matter of whether or not we want to use it on a stormwater basis. Right now, we're using it to get, we'll tell some towns, and we had to, we said, hey, town, you've got your street catch basin connected to our sewer pipe. We found that out, a lot of it, right? Won't say what town. But a lot of it, and that's okay. It's just over 100 years this happens, right? But so we've done that. We have the data. It's a matter of, do we want to use it for this purpose to actually start to prioritize getting stormwater out of the basements that it's being pumped in. We'll fix the pipes. We'll fix the pipes in the streets. But it's really question is the water that's coming from the basements and the foundation drains is the problem.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, just
yes,
the same thing. Yeah, so half that work is already there. So this is what I'm saying, that, bring this information forward, put together a program that now can be presented to these municipalities, given that information and say, here's what, we should be looking to do together so that we can take care of this problem. It's going to help both of us. And then take it, for the next side. Here are the other incentives that we can provide, and then go forward with it. Because I think, if you've already got this information, half the work is already done.
That's right.
Thank you, Commissioner Torres. Good comments. This is the beginning of a long discussion, that's for sure.
Very.
But Commissioner DeBella.
Oh, yeah.
Can you stay here?
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, you do have most of that information.
Yes, we do.
Which can give us a fiscal plan to put it together with it, because then you're going to have to figure out how you're going to get the money. And it's going to come down to money, and whether you're going to state, federal, or how you're going to figure it out. That's the way you're going to launch a program. I think that's the right way to go with it you're talking about.
And I'm going to use an example. We have built a great relationship with DEEP over the last couple of years. The new staff there has been excellent. And I'm going to give you an example. On the whole Windsor Street, North Main Street issue, MDC, under the consent order, is building a new system that will handle the storm system up to a 10-year storm. And that's part of the consent order. So it's funded through the Clean Water Project. So that's all good. DEEP agreed. One, the city of Hartford got a $4 million grant, and I think they got another $1 million grant. And the DEEP agreed with support from MDC and the city. They agreed to fund a storm project for the city of Hartford, not a CSO project, but a storm project to make the storm system bigger to handle the Kensington property, the issues with the Kensington and the Housing Authority. So DEEP recognizes that stormwater, they always thought of the sewer system as being, it's a CSO problem, right? And stop the overflows to the river. But they never really thought about it until North Hartford as it's the stormwater, silly. It's the stormwater that's creating the overflow. So they're willing to and have, with the city of Hartford, funded, and the city of Hartford is getting the same grant and loans that we're getting to actually make the storm system bigger. So if they'll do that for Hartford, I would bet North Hartford's is the pilot. It will be, it has proven to EPA and to the state of Connecticut that stormwater is this issue, silly, and let's get the stormwater out. And I guarantee you, EPA is going to follow suit across the country. And you're not going to see big tunnels being built anymore. You're going to see, get the stormwater out. Once you get the stormwater out, it's gone forever, right? But if you just line the pipe, you think you're good, the infiltration is not coming in, you got more stormwater coming in from the basements. I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just three,
Van Dyke.
thank you. Just three quick items. The first is, I think this is going to be a lengthy process that we should start educating our state delegation. I think some of our state representatives just need to get on board with this. So when and if we try and go for some state funding, that we can have some support. And I don't think we just surprise them and say, oh, we want this now. I think we start educating them on this process. The two is, I really would like to see MDC take more of a lead on trying to educate our 8 towns on green infrastructure. I really think that we can be the ones, and we benefit from it, and then our towns obviously, from green infrastructure. And I think we need to start pushing that envelope a little bit higher. Even if we can divert 5% of what we've got, you know, this is starting to become a much larger issue. And I would like to look at those kinds of issues and have MDC be a leader in that. And then the third is, Scott mentioned the worst areas. I personally, as an MDC commissioner from West Hartford, would like to see what areas are the ones that are most prone in West Hartford. If commissioners can get that information, I'd like to see those areas, because I think that would be very helpful for me.
Isn't that Chris?
Thank you. Very good. Anyone else want to add to this discussion? If not, we will close out the discussion for now. I'm sure it'll go on quite a while. Moving on to the next item, an opportunity for public comments. I don't believe there's anyone here who wishes to make a comment. I don't know about the phones, John.
This is Dwayne Martin from the town of West Hartford. Can you guys hear me?
Say it again. Say your name again. I'm sorry.
Dwayne Martin from the town of West Hartford.
Okay, thank you.
So just to introduce, I'm Director of Community Development for the town of West Hartford and formerly the town engineer. I've worked for the town for 20 years. And in my time with the town, I have seen many flooding occurrences, and I'm not new to this issue. And I'm happy to hear a lot of what Mr. Jellison has to say to the board, and also Mr. Waterbury. We have worked and met on several occasions to talk about West Hartford's flooding and storm drainage issues. And what was reported is a fact. We have taken a new approach over the past, say, 15 years with regards to flooding, recognize that we have a problem and it is not going away. And because of that, we have completed 7 flood studies. And from that, we have found a lot of problems and a lot of recommendations, and it is very expensive to address. Nonetheless, the town council supported dedicating a funding source for flood mitigation. And as you guys are well aware, these projects are very expensive, but at least it's a start. The town council has adopted $5 million a year, and this started a couple years back. So we have some money built up. And we have worked with CDM Smith not only on the studies, but also on the design for some of these improvements to address the flooding. And so I welcome the opportunity to work with the MDC on behalf of the town. I'm stating this on these flood studies because I agree we should have storm drainage or runoff or groundwater go into the storm drainage system. But our storm drainage systems during these heavy rain events can't handle all the flow. So we are looking to improve our storm drainage systems, and there's an opportunity to get the private flow into them. And we are asking, the town of West Hartford is asking the MDC to partner with us on these projects, as was described tonight. And so we are prepared to go forward. One of the projects that was mentioned is in what we've been calling the FEET area of West Hartford. That project is in design. We're about semi-final design now. And we're at the point where we want to hopefully work with the MDC and get commitments to address the private property flows and have that incorporated into the construction of that project. But we have many projects that we would like to get accomplished, but it's not going to happen overnight. We do have a funding source. We try to get grants, but we are unsuccessful. Hopefully there's other funding sources that will become available so that we can do more and more. But I appreciate everybody's time. Just wanted to state that for the record. Thank you. I'm very pleased that you guys are addressing this. And yes, hopefully West Hartford can be used as a positive example for other communities in the region. And we would be happy to showcase our project with the MDC. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes, thank you, Dwayne. Could you just, for the record, indicate your position with the town of West Hartford?
Sure. My title is Director of Community Development.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you.
Any further public comments? One more time, any further public comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 9. An opportunity for commissioners to place future agenda items on the table. Any commissioners? Hearing none, we'll make the magic motion.
Adjourn.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.